Welcome back to Insights at DDLynn Designs, a unique twist in the ancient art of wire. This is DDLynn, and I got my new phone. So I'm hoping that this tutorial comes out okay. I'm figuring out everything on this new phone, and it's overwhelming, and I am not an electronic techie. So anyways, I got great feedback on the all about links post that I did. I did a poll asking everybody, if they wanted to see it. So I want to show you some of these links. They're so cool. And with links, you can really go anywhere. So you can do, I'm going to stand up for a minute because I can't see what I'm doing, so I need to stay down below. So you can really go anywhere with links. They are multi-purpose. And you can make earrings, rings, clasps, bracelets, necklaces, hooks with them. It's just amazing. So today we're going to do a couple of these, several of these, and I want to show you a bracelet I just did. And we're going to be using, by the way, y'all, 20 gauge round weaving wire. I don't particularly like it with square, but you can use whatever you like. And what we're going to be doing over and over again is simply making a figure eight. And all we're going to do is just change the design. So what happened is the other day, I was playing with figure eights, and I just came up with this idea, and I made this adorable bracelet. And this is done in 18 gauge, and then I triple linked the loops to each other with 18 gauge round wire. And then I created a very thick 16 gauge twisted wire for the jump ring. And I'm going to change this, but just to give you an idea, I added a clasp. So it's just super cute. I'm going to do one in 16 gauge for a man. And I'm not sure what link style I'm going to use yet. So anyways, let's get started. So I'm going to try to stay in the center here where my little piece is. I'm going to keep that one there so I stay focused. Move these out of the way. So the first one that we're going to do, let me think about it. I think we'll do something like this or this. And they're really the same concept. It's just changing how you're doing your swirl. So I need to stay right in here. Sorry, you guys, I'm thinking out loud. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut yourself 8 inches of 20 gauge wire, and then you're going to find the center. And my center is right here on the center blue line. And then you're going to mark your wires a 1/2 inch from center on each side. And this is simply a guide. Okay, so to make this bigger, it can be a clasp, a bracelet, a necklace, whatever you want it to be. But to make this link, I'm going to be using my 6-step bell making pliers. And I'm going to be using, what size do I want to use on this? Let me get some scrap wire. I think I want to use, was it this size? Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to be using my number 6 barrel. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your wire, and right where your center mark is, you're going to come up to your mark the 1/2 inch away from it. And this is just a guide. What I'm looking for here is in the center. And I want that about a little over 1/4 inch long. Okay, from where it's inside the barrel to where the mark is. So that's going to be my reference. And then what you're going to do is you're going to simply take your pliers. You're going to stay very close to the barrel, and you're going to swing that wire around until it's parallel with the other wire. Then you're going to take your pliers out. You're going to turn them around. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So here's a really good tip. I do a lot of tips, tricks, and techniques for beginners in this industry. You want to make sure you look down your barrel and that your wires are parallel. You don't want them cocked off, or you're going to bend your figure eight incorrectly. So you always want to look down your barrel So there's my center mark. So now I'm looking to the right of my barrel where my center mark is. And I'm going to swing that wire around, and I'm going to stay very close to the barrel. You don't want to pull your wire out here, okay, because you're going to arc the shape, and we don't want to do that. We want to push it in now to the center line. So you should have that. Then you're going to take your pliers out, and you're going to put them back in on the number 6 barrel. Make sure that your wires are parallel with each other and they're not cocked off. And you're going to stay very close to the barrel, and you're going to push this all the way in, and both wires need to be on top. So both wires need to be on top of your piece, and then you're just going to push it all the way in. So let me take my pliers out. So this is what you should have. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to bend this wire right here over the side, just like we did here. And what I did on this is I flared the side out. So I'll show you that in a minute. So you want to hold your pieces together firmly. So see how I'm pushing them together so that they're completely parallel to each other. Then you're going to get your pliers, and you want a little gap space, because when you're rolling your wire around, you're actually losing length. So if you were super close, it might stretch this out a little bit. So you're just going to have a little gap space, and you're going to swing that wire up. And just that little bit of gap space, line this wire up flush to the loop. And then you're just going to keep swinging it over. And because this wire is so soft, now I'm going to push this wire down. So just want to make sure they're lined up, and I'm going to push it straight down like that. Then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You want to make sure that that wire is parallel to the outside of this loop, and you're going to give yourself a little gap space. And I really should be doing this in the opposite direction, but I want you to see what I'm doing. And you're going to roll that wire over. And then you're going to push it down. So here's what we have. Now what you're going to do is you're going to get your pliers and get in your best working position. And you need a good flat nose. Which ones do I? Nope, those are round. Sorry, I just had them here a minute ago. Where did they go? Here they are. So you want a good flat nose plier. You don't want to be doing this with a petite nose, because your pliers will have a tendency to slip. So you see how there's gap between these two wires here. You see that gap? We're going to squeeze that in. So I'm going to take my pliers on the outside of the wire, and I'm going to push very slowly and roll. I'm not doing a heavy roll. And then I'm just going to go up and down the wire. So that's what you should have. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. See the gap space? So I'm going to get my pliers in there. And the reason why I'm rolling a little bit on the tip is to make sure that that pushes that wire down and in. It's kind of stretching it. So here's what we have. So we're going to come around to the front. And we're going to squeeze this down a little bit more. Front or back, they're both the same right now. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take, so your wires are crossing over. They're zigzagged, right? Or not really zigzag. They're parallel, but they're crossing over. And at the cross in the middle here, you're going to just with your hand very gently and hold very firmly in the X of the figure 8 where it's crossing over, and bend the wire back. Just like that. Then we're going to turn it around. I just came up with this. I just kept playing and playing and playing with the wires, and I went, ooh, I like where this is all going. So now you have your wires like this. So now you're going to get your pliers, and I'm going to use my needle nose this time, and you're going to swing that wire around. Then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So here's what I mean by that this is the figure eight is the same design each time, but where you can go from here. So you can leave it like this. Let me show you. And then close it off like I did on this one, okay? So it's the same thing I just did here, but on this one, I closed the wire off on the back right there. My hands are really dirty, you guys. I've been working on a piece all morning, and I finally finished it. Maybe I'll show it to you here in a minute. But anyway, so you can do that, or what we're going to do now is we're going to take off on this, and we're going to create a swirl. So now I need to tighten these wires down. See the gap? So I'm going to get my pliers, and I'm going to squeeze those in. And you want to squeeze slowly. That way you don't slip off your wire. And I'm just pushing it in and flattening it down. So I'm just going to get in the best working position for myself. And I'm pushing it in and flattening it down. Little bitty movements. Just really making sure those are all cinched in good. See a little bit more gap on this one than I want. Just very gently. I'm not using a lot of pressure, okay? So now what we're gonna do is, let's see, do I want to do this one or this one? It doesn't really matter. What we're going to do now is we're going to make a swirl. So I just want to bring these in a little bit more. And they'll keep pulling apart. That's okay. So what you're going to do to make your life easy is you're going to follow the inside curve. And I'm just going to use my thumb, and I'm pushing against this wire here. I'm not pulling the wire away from me. I'm actually pushing against it so it stays flush. And then I'm just following the curve, keeping my thumb in there, of that loop. And same thing here. I'm just going to follow the curve. I mean, let your imagination just take you wherever it tells you to go. Okay, so we have something like this. The lighting is horrible, but I can't do anything about that. I don't have a special camera light. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these wires, okay? And I'm going to trim them on the inside. So right here, I'm going to bring my pliers in, and I'm going to trim them on the inside. And those might be a little too long still. That's okay. We'll adjust that if it is. This one looks a little shorter. This one definitely looks a little longer. So now we're just going to make a little swirl or loop or whatever you want to make. So I'm going to be using, let's see, and I'm still thinking those tails are a little long. And I'm going to be using, these are half flat, half round. So I love these pliers. I actually just found them by accident. These are the same thing by Tronex, but more money. And they're flat on the inside of the jaw here, and they're round on the other side. They help you control your wire a lot when you're making tiny loops. And they also keep you from dinging your wire a lot, you know, because when you have two round sides, they tend to ding the wire very quickly. I'm going to hold the top of the wire very firmly, And I'm going to grab the tip and I'm going to smash it down a little bit. And the nice thing about these pliers is they are, the little flat side allows you to really smash that tip down a lot easier against the round side of the plier. Okay, so if you're having trouble making your loop, I'm going to take off that little piece there that oh, I can't see what I'm doing. The lighting is just horrendous. If you're having trouble making your little swirl or your little inside loop, you can always use your pliers and you can come back here. So this is a really good tip. You can come back here and hold both of these loops together. So you're only going to be turning in the tip. So this is really helpful when you're trying to figure out loops. I'm going to start mine first and then I may use that technique. So I'm going to take right off the tip and I'm just going to curl it in and see what that looks like. And I'm not sure if I want to leave it high like this one or lower like this one. I'll decide that in a minute. So now I'm going to come back and hold these together so it doesn't pull on it so much, just to show you, and get my pliers in there. And I'm going to round that loop out. So we have something like this. I hope this is working, you guys. I think I'm moving away. I'm going to have to move I tend to move my hands in so many directions. I keep pushing myself up and down. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Where are my pliers? And I'm thinking that's a little long. I'm going to trim it just a little bit. It may end up being too short. So the same thing is I'm just going to smash that tip . And I'm rolling off the tip of the wire. And then I'm going to start my loop. And then I'm going to get my pliers and I'm going to hold back here. Whoops, I think I was out of camera there. And then I'm just going to continue my loop. This keeps you from, well, controlling the wire and stretching it out. Whoops. That happens. And I think I did make this one a little short, but that's okay. And it's a little cocky, but that's all right. I'll fix that. I'm going to just round it out. So here's what we have. Isn't that adorable? So now we're going to connect because I'm not using 18 gauge on these. These I used 18 gauge and I hammered the arc. So what we're going to do is we're going to buff out that little ding I made. And because I'm not hammering these, I'm going to connect the loop to the outside loop of the figure 8. Just going to clean that up a little bit. I'm going to turn this tip in a little bit more. Now you could hammer these right now, and that would really harden up this link. So I want to show you another really cool tip if you're new to my channel. Let me find my file. You can take your file, and this is 180 grit, and push your loop up a little bit and then just file over it, and it kind of gives it a flattened look. I'm holding it very firmly. Kind of gives it a really cool flattened look. I'm going to push that up a little bit. And then I'm just filing, and I'm filing on an angle. I'm not filing straight across. Then I'm going to get my buffer. And now we're going to connect it. So I'm going to be using some half round wire. And I want to use not 20. I'm grabbing my wire, y'all. Where is it? No, that's not it. I just had it out here a minute ago. I want to use 22 gauge half round. You can use weaving wire or half round wire, whatever works for you. I'm going to move my tape, y'all, so I make sure I stay center here. Okay, so all we're going to do is just connect the two loops. So I'm going to feed my wire through. And I'm looking for my other pliers. I don't know where they went. And then I'm going to flatten it. Very gentle, especially when you're using 22 gauge half round. You don't want to smash down on that hard. You just want to give it a gentle tap. And you can wrap as many times as you want. Let's see how many wraps I want to do. I think I'm going to do some more. Really decorate this up. So I want to do one more. I'm liking it right here where it's curling in, but I think you could also weave in between. I mean, just really use your imagination. So I'm thinking I like that a lot. So I'm on the back. I'm just gonna really anchor on that wire. I'm rocking it because I'm gonna cut it off and I'm gonna just tap it down. Okay. I like that a lot. So let's go ahead and cut this off on the back. And when after you've cut your half round wire, you want to roll as you're turning. See how my plier is turning? Because you're stretching that wire and really tightening it against the frame. But see how pretty that is? And then we'll go ahead, and I'm not sure I have enough here, so I'm going to go ahead and cut myself about 3 inches. That's actually more than 3. But I think when you're first starting out, it's really important to have working wire. When I have a lot of length in wire, I like to use my hands a lot. So how many do I have here? 7. One more. So as before, I'm going to really, oops, wrong pliers. I'm going to really rock on that wire. Do you see that? Then I'm going to come off the wire and I'm going to roll it in. And here, I'm going to cut really close. And I'm going to roll that wire. So we're almost done. So now what we're going to do, you could leave it like this. We're going to flare the sides off. So what you want to do is hold super firm, okay? You want to grab this right here. Let me stand up to see if you can see this. My lighting is horrible. And you want to just grab the tip and you want to hold super firm and you just want to tilt it down and flare it out. And then the same thing over here. Hold really firm, grab that tip, and you're rolling it down, flaring it out. And there you go. Isn't that the cutest thing? It's just so cute. So you could make a bunch of these for a bracelet or a necklace or a clasp. You could add wire in the middle. It's whatever you want to do. So now let's make this one. So it's the same concept. We're going to make a figure 8. And then we're going to use half round wire, weaving wire. And I'm going to give you some really cool ideas about what you can do with this design, even though it's the same thing. Now I got to figure out which wire I need. 7, and this one is, so they're both 7 inches. So the same thing that we did before, you're going to get your bail making pliers. And then did I mark my wire? I did. And on this one, I marked to the inside of the 1/2 inch. So here's my center. And instead of going all the way to the 1/2 inch, I came in a little bit because I'm going to be making the loop smaller but longer. So here's my center right here. And this time I'm going to use my number, do I want to use my number 5 or my number 4? We'll do 5 for right now and see what that comes out to be. So I'm going to come actually to the outside of that mark. So the mark is just barely sticking out the barrel. And then as before, I'm just going to swing it around and stay very close to the barrel. And I'm glad I used the number 5. So here's my center mark. I'm going to turn my pliers around and I'm using the number 5. And the mark is just outside the barrel, and I'm going to look down to make sure that my wires are parallel. And then I'm staying very close to the barrel and swinging that wire around. Now I'm going to swing it in. I don't want it in really, really far. I need some length there. Then I'm going to bring my pliers in. And I'm going to swing it in. So let's see what we got here. So that's pretty good. And I just realized that I did not, did I do them both on top? Yeah, I did. Nope, I didn't. Did I do them both on top? Let me see. Yeah, I did. Okay. I'm just lining them up. Okay. So like before, but what I'm going to do first is I want to have this loop here more tapered, I guess, is the word I'm thinking of. So I'm going to come on the outside of the arc of the loop, and I'm just going to very gently squeeze it in. This one needs to come in more. Just tapering it out a little bit more so that it's not such a full circle. Kind of ding my wire there. Okay. So actually, did I do that one right? I wanted these in the opposite side. So maybe I'll do, we just did this one. So let's do, since I meant this to go on the opposite side, sorry you guys. I've done so many of these, you should see. Oh my goodness gracious. So let me think, because I really wanted it to go. So you know what, we're going to do a different one. So it's the same concept as before. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing my wire, and I'm using my thumbnail to keep center, and I'm going to swing it out. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. This is what I mean, is I just see things and I'm like, oh, let's try that. So now I'm going to get my pliers, and I'm going to squeeze this together and then rock it down. Then I'm going to squeeze it together and rock it down. So here is what we should have. And I need to squeeze this in a little bit more. Good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our half round wire again. I'm just going to cut myself, oh, let's say about 4 inches. Sorry, I had to get out of camera there. I had to go get my half round. So I'm going to center my half round up, and I'm going to start wrapping around the center of this figure 8 or bow tie. It kind of looks like a bow tie to me right now. And I do that to really tighten that wire up in the center, holding the center very firmly, and I'm rocking that wire. Now I'm going to press it down, and now I'm going to wrap again. We're just going to make a different link. Do I want to do 3 or 4 wraps? Let me take a look at this without my hands being in the way. I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to leave it 3. I like that. Now I'm going to bring it through the inside of this loop. And when you're working with half round, it will have a tendency when you're pulling on it, especially if you have a lot of length. So to prevent that, as you get your loop through, get your thumb in there against that wire so it doesn't slide up the loop, and then pull it through so that it's nice and straight. So what we're doing is we're just tying everything off right now. Now I am definitely going to hammer this. So see what I mean as I start pulling it, starts going off on that angle. So just go ahead and get your loop in there. You can use your pliers to turn it in a little bit more. And let your thumb be the anchor that you need to keep it from sliding. And then just push it in and tighten it off. So now before I do anything else, I'm going to hammer the arc. And I'm going to use my chasing hammer. And I want to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. So now I'm just going to very gently tap, because 20 gauge wire is very soft, but I want to harden this up a little bit. Now I'm coming and flaring out the sides a little bit more. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. So we should have something like that. Now I'm going to continue wrapping up this side, just I think about 2 more right now. So I'm going to put my thumb there to create an anchor. Tighten that up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to follow this wire. We're going to take this wire around and we're going to follow the loop. So you're just going to keep your fingers. So I've got my thumb and my index finger very close to the loop, and I'm moving it up as I'm making my turn. Then I'm going to turn my wire around so that I have a good working position, and I'm just going to keep following that. Then I'm going to stop here and do the same thing on the other side. Just following that loop. I'm just staying very close to my wire. So we're going to make something like this, but a little bit different. So this one, what happened is I had the wires coming underneath, so the one was on top and one was on bottom, and I didn't do that with this. So while we're on top here, I'm going to bring that wire over, just like that. Then I'm going to lift up on the wire as I'm holding the outside edge here with my thumbnail. I'm going to lift it up, and then I'm going to curve it. You want to keep your thumb exactly where you want that wire to stay. You don't want to move that. You can also grab a plier and do that, and we're going to feed this wire through. Now I'm going to get my flat nose because I don't want to pull on the length of the wire, just to keep them together. And then as I'm curling through, I'm going to move my flat nose up. Because I want to keep this design concept that I'm working on. Then I'm going to flatten the top down just a little bit. And then I'm going to keep feeding that wire through. Now let me get my flat nose, because I want to come this way up underneath and roll that wire in. So we should have something like this. Do you see what I mean? It's just a figure 8 and you can just go anywhere with it, and that's really cool. So I'm going to come through again, and I'm going to come over here first and want to really flatten that up there. And then I'm going to tighten this loop down. And then I'm going to start feeding it through again. So I'm going to leave it like that for right now, and I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. So I'm just going to turn my work around, and this is where I want my bend. So I'm going to put my thumb there. I'm going to swing that wire in, and then I'm going to lift the wire up, and I'm going to curl it. I'm basically training the wire and telling it where I want it to go. Let me see what we're doing here. I don't want to get too far out on that. Okay, so let me get my pliers here, because I want to keep that shape. And I'm just feeding it through. So I'm going to get in a better working position. So I want to tighten this loop down. Always move your piece around to get yourself in the best working position as possible. Oh, this is going to be so cute. I'm going to flatten this down a little bit. And I'm going to start feeding that wire through again. So let me see what we got here. Isn't that cute? It's just so cute. So I'm debating on whether or not I want to add more coils. It's really up to you and it's personal preference. But what you could have done, so I want to give you guys another idea. When we first started bringing the wire around, we could have even brought it a lot further out and started weaving it in and then connected it up here with our weaving wire. I mean, you can just go a million places, but I'm not sure if I want to do a series of loops. But I've got this wire here, right? And I want to flatten this out a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that then. Now that we're nice and secure, let's feed it through one more time. Yeah, that's cute, huh? Okay, so now we're going to trim it on the back, and you want to open your wire up so you can get up underneath it, because you want to trim it on the inside so that it's not poking on anybody. So I'm going to even straighten this wire out even more. You want to be able to get up underneath it. So I'm going to come way back, and I'm going to come back even a little bit more. And then I'm just going to very gently tap it in. And I don't want to be able to feel that nib in the back. So let's go ahead and feed this one through. Cute. It's just, the sky's the limit, gang. You can go pretty much anywhere with this. I'm just straightening this wire out so I can get up underneath it. And you can see how quickly 8 inches of wire goes. I mean, it goes so fast. People don't realize that don't do this art, and it is an ancient art of wire. It predates the Phoenicians by 5,000 years. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue coiling. You don't have to. You can stop right here. It's up to you. But I just thought we would do that and continue. bringing up this half round wire. This wire's getting a little hard. If you notice, and you have to do what works for you, but I'm using my fingers to keep that wire relatively close and anchored. As half round wire gets shorter, it's much easier to control. If you've never used it, it has a very strong tendency to want to twist on you, and that's not a good thing because you have a flat side and a round side. Yeah, I like that. That's so cute. Isn't that the cutest? And then we just have another link. So we'll do one more, and I'll show you the one that I did when we first started, but I used it for the bracelet, and I'm going to double flare it. So on the bracelet, I flared the sides, and then I hammered the arc. It's going to look so good when it's oxidized. And then these, it's the same exact concept, okay? It's the figure 8, just like this, right? But what I did is when I brought the wire around and back, I just rolled it around the inside of the loop. It's just endless what you can do with this figure 8 concept. So let's go ahead and trim this off the back. And then I'm just going to roll that little tail end in. And we'll go ahead and do this side. Hopefully I have enough wire. I noticed this side was a little bit shorter. My finger joint right in here is super sore. I did so many of these. I'll show you guys. Because I'm going to be making some necklaces and bracelets, and I did so many. I think I just really cranked down on this joint. I mean, it's so sore. And I don't think they have an index finger brace. I've got a thumb brace, a wrist brace, but I've never found one. Just maybe it's an index finger cast. I don't know, but it's really sore. I'm sure hoping I'll be able to lighten up this video. It's looking so dark. When I stand up and look at the camera, because it's facing down on top of me, it's super dark. So I'm hoping I'm going to have enough wire. Yay! So listen, if you're new to my channel, I'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe and hit that bell so you know when my tutorials are coming out next. And I'd love your feedback and comments. Let me know what you guys would like to see. And if I can pull it off, I will. Just trying to see how much more I got going here. I don't know if I can come around here again. I can't. So I'm gonna slide these down a little bit. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to bring it through around the other side again. So I'm going to just come back here and trim it off. And then I'm just going to roll it in. So here we have it. Isn't that adorable? It's just so cute. You could add beads. So really, it's anything you want to do. This is the same as this one, except I crossed them over. So this is the same as this, meaning it's the same concept as far as the half round. That's the back side. Or is that the back side? That's the back side. But they're all just the same thing. They're just figure eights. So this is the first one we did. This is similar to that. This is done in 18 gauge. Then we just did this one. And this is the same thing as this. It's just a more long tapered figure eight. And this one is like this, but the wires are crossing over in the opposite direction. One is on top and one is on bottom. And the only thing I did is I just only did one loop. But do you see how it's the same thing and you can just change this shape? So let me show you the one more. I'm going to have a ton of links, you guys. And this one I'm going to do for the bracelet. And I'm going to cut myself 7 1/4 inches of 18 gauge. Okay. And it can be 7 1/2 or 8, you guys. Whatever you want to work with is really up to you. So just remember, it's the same thing over and over and over again. We're just making a figure eight and we're changing the design. That's all we're doing, is we're just changing the design. I mean, you could do so much. You could do weaving. Now I need to find my center. And I'm going to come to the 1/2 inch mark. And you want your wire really clean and straight. So I'm going to get my hammering block and I'm going to go up and down this wire. I don't want any bends in it. I'm just sliding my hammering block up and down the wire. And it just straightens it out beautifully and gets those little tiny, because it's on a coil, so it gets those little tiny, you know, miniature bends out. Okay, so now we're going to do a double flare. And as before, here's my center mark. I'm going to get my number 6. And remember, this is just a guide. So if you know where your center is, that'll determine how big your loop is going to be, right? So if you, that's why I say I want 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch on this one, because I'm going to do a double flare. I'm thinking that looks about 1/2 inch to me. So I'm going to do 1/2 inch. And that means that my mark is just barely coming outside these 2 barrels. As before, I'm going to bring that wire around and stay very close to my barrel. And then here's my center mark. I'm going to turn my pliers around to make sure my wires are parallel and they're not cocked off. And now I'm going to swing that wire around and stay very, very close. Now I'm going to swing it in to the center mark. Slide this out, put my pliers back in. And using my index finger, I'm pushing it way in. So it's right on that center mark, so that you have equal loops on each side. So a lot of people do it by eye, and that's great, but I really wanted symmetry on these. So now we're going to do the same thing as we did before. Now hold my wire close to the outside of this loop. I'm going to leave myself a little gap. And I felt that that was a little tight on there. And then I'm going to push it down with my hand. Then this time I'm going to turn it around so I have better working room. Leave myself a little gap. And then I'm going to push it down. Now you could do a bow tie. You could literally take this wire from this side and this wire from that. They're both coming around the back. And you could bend them straight up and wrap them around to one side and this one to the other. Does that make sense? So if you took this wire here and swung it straight up, you'd wrap it around to this side, and then you would take this wire here, you'd square it up so that it's straight up, and then you'd wrap it around this side and you'd have a bow tie. So now we're going to take this and we're going to bend it over the middle of the X and do the same thing here, but I'm going to get in a better working position. Bend it over. And I forgot to tighten my wires down, so I'm going to do that right now before I complete my next series of bends. There we go. See, that really stretched the wire out. You always want to cinch off your first time you're looping around this loop, because it stretched this wire down here really tight against the frame. So I'm going to get my pliers and I'm going to continue the swing. Oops. So if that happens, where I twisted my wire in the back, I'm just going to come back in here and straighten it out. Did it again. Once you do that, it has a tendency to want to keep doing it then, because you've already put memory in the wire. So you can see how quickly 7.5 inches wire is used up when we're using the number 6 on the 6-step bell making pliers. That's amazing, huh? Now this is a big link, but it would make an awesome bracelet. I mean, you just make them smaller. Just use smaller loops. If you want to make one smaller like these. I made these little tiny ones. For a necklace chain. And I used the number 3 on the bell making pliers. Or did I use the 4? I think I used the 4. Anyways, you guys, it's just the same thing over and over again, and you deciding on how you want to change it up. So now I'm going to fold that over. And I'm going to feed it through. And I'm going to stop there. This one is a little tweaked, because that's what happened when I twisted it. Then I'm going to fold this over. Now if you had 9 inches of wire, you could keep wrapping the loops around the top of your figure 8 loop like we did on this. So I'm just trying to give you inspiration to let you think outside the box, so to speak. And just keep going. Just keep playing with the wire. So I'm going to squeeze these down a little bit more. I don't think I have enough to go around 2 full loops with this. And I don't want the wire sticking on top. So this is my top. And I'm looking at this wire right here. Let me see if I have enough to go fully around twice. I won't. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it and close it off back here. That looks just a wee long. I'm going to get my flat nose and I'm going to roll it in. I'm rolling it into itself. Then this one I already know is way too long. So I'm going to cut it. Is that still a wee bit long? No, I think that'll work. Nope, it's a little bit. I just need to take just a hair. And the lighting in here is horrible. I cannot see what I'm doing. Much better. So here's a tip again for beginners. You want to anchor off that wire on the back and on the tip. So you want to be right on the tip of it, and then you want to roll. I'm not squeezing super hard, but this is 18 gauge. You're going to have to put pressure on it, but I'm also rolling it into itself. Then what we're going to do is we're going to flare it out. So as before, I need to tighten this down. I moved it around too much. You're going to get your pliers. You're going to come right on this tip and you're going to flare it out. But now we're going to do a double flare. So on this side, I'm going to straighten this out. I'm going to bring it closer to the center. We're going to flare it out here. So you've got this look. Isn't that cute? And then over here, same thing. Get my pliers in there. Good firm grip and flare it out. And then over here, I'm going to tighten that up. We're going to flare it out, holding very firmly and giving it a little pitch back. Isn't that adorable? So you see what I mean, everybody? I hope you enjoyed that. You could actually flare this one down too if you wanted to, or just leave it like that. You could wrap half round wire in the middle. You could put a bead in, whatever you'd like to do. I'd really, really appreciate your feedback. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, please let me know. Be happy to get back to you. And thank you so much for being a part of this wonderful, magical, ancient art of wire. I wish for you all that you wish for yourselves. Have a magical, wonderful wire wrap day. Bye for now.